Hello and welcome to the Broadcast Newswrap, your shorthand guide to the week's TV news, brought to you by the Broadcast editorial team and guests. I'm senior reporter Max Goldbart, and it's virtual Mipcom week. International editor John Elmes joins me with a roundup of the remote market as Netflix's Ted Sarandos hits back at critics, while we've got an exclusive interview with Mipcom organiser Reed Midem's TV director Laurine Garaude. All that, plus the ever punchy What We've Been Watchin' on this week's Broadcast Newswrap. So I'm joined this week by international editor John Elmes. And John, it's been a tough week for you. You would expect to be in Cannes, you bloody love it, and instead here you are, rooted at home, desk chair. But you've been covering Mipcom as you would if you were out there itself. So welcome first. Good to have you back on.
Great to be back on, Max. Yeah. Actually, I was on last week, so it's not like a really long time since I've last been on the pod, but it's good to be back.
It's too long for our listeners.
It's too long.
So you've been following things closely this week, regardless of the this just comes up all the time, doesn't it? Every festival we cover at the moment on the pod, we talk about how sad it is that we're still stuck in our living rooms. So I think it's almost a perennial problem at the moment.
It is.
But regardless, you were following things closely. What have been some of the key takeaways for you from this year's market?
Yeah, no, it's been interesting purely from the fact that it is so far removed. I mean, you know, because it's an unknown quantity, it's easy to kind of have ideas about what it should be like and what it might be like, and until you've actually done it, you don't realize it. And I think, you know, some of the keynotes that I saw were much like being in the physical event. I mean, the Ted Sarandos one on Monday was fascinating, actually. And you know, that would have been fascinating were it live in Cannes or pre-recorded as it was in this case. So yeah, I mean, just taking that as a kind of reference point, because he is probably, you know, in the top 5 most prominent media execs in the world, you would say, as the co-chief executive of Netflix, he was quite interesting. He gave a quite, you know, holistic viewpoint of what's been going on at Netflix. Obviously, Netflix have had a pretty good time over the last 6-7 months in the pandemic. And so he reflected a bit like on their, you know, their wider expansion into pretty much every country in the world. And the story that I wrote about it was interesting from the fact that he kind of touched on something that I think is quite important in TV, especially now when everyone's demanding content, is how long you keep a show going for and what is a cutoff point. And he was in quite a pugnacious tone, because I think that I think probably people at Netflix, considering how big it is and how popular it is, I think they're getting probably a bit annoyed that people harp on about when a show gets cancelled. I mean, we all do that, but I suppose they're saying like, well, we're delivering you so much of the best new content.
Yeah, he thinks criticism has been slightly unfair, right, in terms of the decisions Netflix sometimes makes to cut shows quite short. But do you think it's been unfair? Do you think he's fair to come out and say stuff like this?
I think there are some slightly aging views on what constitutes success, and a show's longevity is perhaps one of those. But then the flip side, and it's a point that I think is really important to reiterate. You know, I've just finished watching the 10th series of The Walking Dead. The 10th series of The Walking Dead has just finished. You know, that's 10 series of a show that's been going since 2010, which predates Netflix's own originals output. So I think, and that series was really highly rated. I noticed it had scored like an average of 7.25 on IMDb or one of the rating sites. So I think he's a little bit, I think there's one element that is true on his part, but another I just don't agree with, because, you know, if you can get a show that is that fans enjoy and is still going into its 10th year, then that surely is a good thing.
It depends. It depends how you see his. I thought it was interesting, his line about not propping up a show beyond its creative life. I think it depends, because kind of like what you're saying, The Walking Dead proves that an arc of a show's creative life can go up and down, right? I think I'm actually broadly in agreement with him. I think sometimes Netflix can be slightly unfairly treated in this respect, and there are just so many shows that do, for me, lots of shows do go way beyond their creative life. So I think it's fair for him to identify this, but maybe he's using it as an excuse a little bit, like culling lots of shows. Tuca and Bertie or something would be quite a good example, where I don't feel like that was cancelled because Ted Sarandos or the powers that be thought that had gone beyond its creative life. I think that was cancelled because they just thought it wasn't particularly popular, or not reeling in the subscribers, or wasn't particularly to their personal taste. So maybe it can be a bit of an excuse sometimes. And what else, John? Were there any key shows that were being particularly marketed, or anything else big that cropped up for you?
Yeah, well, I think it was last week actually. Our colleague Alex Farber broke the story about I Hate Susie being bought by HBO Max. Now, HBO Max, in their conversations at Edinburgh, said they were looking for acquisitions from the English language market, particularly in the UK market, were a big draw for them, and they were buying them up perhaps as pure acquisitions, or as international originals, getting the first window in the States via HBO Max, and therefore being able to put an HBO Max branding on it, original branding on it. And they did, they bought Adult Material, the 50 Fathoms Channel 4 show about the pornography industry. That's been doing okay on Channel 4. It started off quite well with Channel 4, and then unfortunately halved its viewers in the second week. It's on at 10 p.m. I think there are myriad factors for why a drama halves its audience. But I thought that was an interesting acquisition. It's quite an edgy, quite big topics, big themes. It's a very streamer type show, and it's 4 parts, so it's a kind of a mini series length. And I just thought that was interesting. And in the same breath, All Three Media's political drama Roadkill, which is going to come out in the UK in the near future with Hugh Laurie, that is pre-sold around the world, and those kind of stories dropped on pretty much the same day. An All Three Media show and a Banner J Rights show going to big international buyers, and it just goes to show again the strength of UK drama in the international market, which is very good. And that complemented another sale of All Creatures Great and Small the day before, which is a really domestic drama that sold really well.
Great stuff, John. Well, I think that leads us really nicely onto your interview with Laurine Garaude, Director of the TV division of Mipcom organiser Read Midem.
Hello, Laurine. It's great to have you with us on this, I believe the penultimate day or the final day of the latest, the new Mipcom, as it were.
Well, hi, John. Thanks for having me. This is Thursday, we're speaking, and Mipcom week goes on till including tomorrow. And then it's not finished because there's the follow-up period until November 17th. So it's going all very well. We're all very excited.
Fantastic. And I think obviously, this year has been a difficult year for everyone in the world, let alone the TV industry. But it's also been particularly difficult for those in your position. What's the experience been like to get to this point and organize something on this?
Well, we've been working on what was going to be a digital complement for many, many months. So it's been a very big project with a large team working really, really hard on this. So for us, this is something extremely important. And what we have succeeded in doing is bringing together the international TV community online, and to maintain the Mipcom flagship week, and that was our goal. So it's a huge job, but the numbers speak for themselves, because we have to date 6,700 delegates, and people are signing up every day. including 2,400 buyers. Again, numbers are increasing every day from 100 countries, and that's pretty amazing. That's just like Mipcom. It is Mipcom, but it's exactly completely international. And you know, Korea is the country of honor. We have a very large delegation from Korea. And there are over 800, actually close to 900 virtual exhibiting companies pages. So it's a very, very large and very event online.
Absolutely. And from your perspective, obviously this is new for Read Midem. It's new for everyone. How do you feel that the event has gone so far in relation to all those delegates and buyers participating?
Well, we feel it's going very well. As I said, we're bringing together international TV community, and that was what we meant to do. And there were two big sections that we thought were the most important. The first is the networking. So we chose a networking tool with capabilities to do just that. And the second is the ability to screen and discover new content through a system. So all that is working well.
Fantastic. And from your perspective, you know, what have been the highlights so far of this new offering? Obviously, it's something that's different for all of us. What have been your highlights so far?
Well, the program is exactly what we're going to do for Mipcom in Cannes, just transposed online. So what was different, though, was that we started a week earlier for warm-up week. And that went very well in the sense that we had some quite, I think, excellent conferences in terms of market intelligence, a whole stream of market intelligence and production funding forum. We've gotten very good feedback from clients and also quite extensive coverage from the media. So that's one thing. That was the week before, and that was done to help prepare for meetings and to help give context to where the situation worldwide was on and is for the industry. So that's one thing. That was the week before. And during this week, there are highlights. I can't go through all of them, but the global Upfronts, which was the big new event that we've been planning for over a year with partners, the BBC Studios, ITV, All3 Media, Viacom, CBS, and many others, showed fantastic showcases of their new slates. And I'd like to thank our supporting partners for working together, because this was going to be in the auditorium. And here, with our partners, we've produced high quality events that are online.
And what do you feel, you know, perhaps hasn't worked as well, or you've taken on board and you might try and sort out in the future? What hasn't worked as well?
You know, what we'll be doing in the upcoming weeks is really focusing on having a very sharp understanding of how participants are using the platform in many different ways, and look at different angles, also in different cultures. And we'll be running a survey, of course, and talking to our clients. And so we'll take all that feedback and take it into account for the future.
For sure. And do you think that this will form part of future Mipcom events or MIP events, that you will be harnessing more online?
I'm sure that the digital part is here to stay in a very important way. What's important now is the articulation between what's physical, and that is extremely important, and what can be online.
Fantastic. And obviously, you know, nothing beats the in-person effect of the things that social interaction that we know is so important for the TV industry. Obviously, looking ahead, and I'm going to come on to some other question on this. Looking ahead, you know, how do you hope to be able to come back in a physical form next year? You know, what are your early thoughts on perhaps MIP TV and then Mipcom, you know, a year from now?
Well, as you said, everybody wants to meet in person. That is what we're hearing very strongly from our clients, and we're hearing it online from Mipcom online all the time. So we plan to be back in Cannes in 2021. Of course, we're monitoring the situation very closely. We all know that the world is what it is right now. As you said before, and as we were just saying, the digital complement will be there for sure. But the most important thing is that our goal, and I said that before, but it is absolutely true. Our mission is to gather the international TV community in the best way possible and in the most effective way possible given the situation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's for Mipcom. Obviously, MIP TV was also the event that, you know, it was the first one to have to go online, and obviously you took a lot of those learnings of the online proposition that you had to do very quickly then. With that in mind, with that data and what you've got now, what do you feel is the early stages for MIP TV? Is it still dependent on the situation that the world is going through with relation to the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, it's exactly what I said. Right now, we're planning to be in, and we have our dates, 12th to 14th of April, just as planned, alongside Cannes series, which will be occurring for the 4th season. And we are certainly looking at the situation as to what the sanitary environment is going to be. And we'll be discussing that with our clients and with the media in the next weeks.
I just wanted to ask you about, obviously, about change for good. It is something that was articulated in the sessions that I had the privilege of chairing last week. I had a number in the unscripted brief, which was a great privilege. You know, for harnessing those different aspects of change for good in the future, you know, what do you hope that to kind of invoke in the industry with that, with obviously the platform that Mipcom affords? Obviously, I tuned into the Diversify Awards. I think those are the 4th of those. You know, how can Mipcom and the wider community play a part in that change for good mantra?
I think we can and we must, because the whole international community as a whole has huge power and a responsibility, in my mind, to drive change together. And we can. We saw with the first SDG award to Jeremy Darroch, Sky, for all that they've been doing for climate action. There's a lot to be done, and there is a lot happening. And to share, first to exchange on what's happening, to celebrate it, but especially to exchange and see how we can do more together, how through efforts in terms of different projects, but in the way we create programming. We see that people are watching TV in all its forms around the world more than ever before, and that's great. And so therefore, the power to influence in a positive way is hugely important. And we see with this COVID situation that it's all linked somehow to the climate and the environment, and it's all intertwined in a strange way. I think that it's and the diversity with what's happened this year during a pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, there's so much happening, and as I said, it's intertwined in a weird way, and it has to be addressed. And I think to me, it's a very important mission for the international market that we are.
Absolutely.
So it's not just once time. It's something that's going to continue. Like I said, the Diversify, you said, the Diversify TV Excellence Awards, it's the 4th year. So this is something it's been very important for a long time, and it's even more, it's always important. The Women in Global Entertainment, I just was watching the Women in Global Entertainment lunch, so the panel on surviving Jeffrey Epstein. This is the 9th time we do this. These issues are all the more important, and I think we all need together to find the inspiration to help the world. I think we cannot undermine how important that is.
And by way of a final question, Laurine, it is a serious one. Obviously, it has been a difficult year. I come back to what I first asked you, and there's been a lot of discussion about when things could have been done and timings, and obviously, Reed organizing this, getting less and less physical and more online as the year went on. What's your message to the industry about Mipcom and the MIP event strength for the future, given the uncertainty that we are in, and what's the message to delegates and distributors and buyers that you can give for future events?
Well, the physical markets will be back. Just talking to you, clients, friends, we know how much we all miss seeing each other for business and for the humanity part, which is a big part of the business, which unfortunately today, the situation, we have to see each other through Zoom or whatever, and that's great. Luckily, we can. But it doesn't change that there's this need to meet. The physical markets will be back, and the need for business efficient markets, I think, will never have been more important, whether they're online, but especially physical. And I think people may travel less and be more, let's say, picky. I know that's not the right word, but choose their travel very carefully. And so it's our mission and our business to make it so that our events really, as the one-stop shop, give the context, the business, and the good experience that this industry needs.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Laurine. Thank you so much for taking your time out of what is still an ongoing event, and
yes.
good luck for the rest of the time that it's on.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Fascinating insights there, John. It's been really good to have both you and Laurine discussing the market. But of course, we couldn't disappear without facing up to one of our favourite segments, What We've Been Watching. John, what hath thou been watching?
I like the way you introduced it that time. It's just going to be a meme, isn't it? At some stage, well, the worst meme in the world.
I think we like the idea that it'll be a meme.
I like the idea after all we've been talking about Netflix. I absolutely binged my way through Sneakerheads. It's a really, really great show. I loved it. It's from as you say, it's a Netflix show. It stars Alan Maldonado from Blackish. And Andrew Bachelor, his mate. They're a buddy comedy. It's a buddy comedy, and I think the point that a lot of critics have made about Sneakerheads is that if you like the subject matter, which is essentially about trainer collection, but trainer collection and selling, it goes into the kind of this slightly rarefied world of selling trainers, of getting really rare trainers and buying them and selling them. It's about Sneakerheads, a sneaker collection, trainer collection. I used to have this idea that I'd be a trainer collector when I was younger, but I don't have the money. It's a serious business. But as I say, it's a buddy comedy. It's a bit larger than life. It's completely escapist, and some of the kind of decisions made by the characters just wouldn't happen in real life, because families. One of the episodes concentrates on them going to Hong Kong, just off the cuff. They have to go to Hong Kong, which I think is quite amazing, and they have to do it in basically less than 24 hours or 48 hours, and they do manage to get from LA to Hong Kong and back, and still have time to run around Hong Kong. There are lots of things that don't necessarily add up, but I thought it was really good. I really love the subject matter. Obviously, I love trainers. I thought Alan Maldonado and Andrew Bachelor together as the kind of in the buddy comedy buddies role were fantastic, and I ripped my way through it. It's half-hour episodes, and I did it in all in an afternoon.
Wow, bingeable.
Very bingeable.
Who knew Netflix could order bingeable programs? Does it have a good creative shelf life?
Yeah, it definitely left it on a cliffhanger for potential series 2. How about you, Max? What have you been watching?
Well, for what it's worth, I've also been watching a Netflix series. So we do next week. We must broaden our horizons. But I think I'm a bit late to the party. But I've watched the entire first series of Dark, which is the German language, one of the most, or possibly the most successful German language series on Netflix. And I absolutely give it my seal of approval. It's like Stranger Things, but much more complicated, and I just think quite a lot better and quite a lot more interesting. Stranger Things obviously had the kind of cultural 1980s cachet, which Dark to some extent also has, but the story arc is in places quite insane. And really, it's sort of really difficult to follow, but compelling enough. I don't know how much you know about it, John, but without giving too much away, it moves between several different timelines, all each of 33 years. So it kicks off in 2019, starts hopping backwards to 1986, and then moving forwards and backwards freely. And you have to really have your wits about you to know what the hell is going on. But it's a challenge. It's been fantastic once again having you on the pod. Thank you for giving us all the latest analysis, and I'm sure we will speak with each other again soon.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, Max. Cheers for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcast Newswrap. I'm senior reporter Max Goldbart, and you've been listening to international editor John Elmes and Mipcom organiser Read Midem's TV director Laurine Garaude. The pod was edited this week by me. You can check out past episodes of the Newswrap on Spotify and iTunes, or on the website via www.broadcastnow.co.uk.